just going to pour these 4 cups here. So I'm big into visual aids. I'm doing this for you, okay? So you're going to remember, you're going to go home, you're going to think, oh yeah, I remember that. So that's the purpose of all this. The title of the communion is Jesus Drank the 5th Cup. And what they did when they were drinking these 4 cups, the first 4, the 5th actually was left untouched. It was the cup of Elijah, who never showed up. He didn't come. What they would do is they would remember the 4 promises of Exodus chapter 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to read Exodus chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. We're going to take a look at the 4 promises. Actually, there's a lot more promises. There's more than 4. But the 4 promises that the Jewish people would focus on when they took Passover. And the reason we're doing this is because this is what Jesus and the 12 did as they were enjoying the Last Supper, enjoying the last Passover meal, hours before he was arrested. Where was Jesus' mind? What was he thinking about? It says in Exodus chapter 6, verses 6 through 8, "Therefore say to the Israelites, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out." That's the first promise. "From under the yoke of the Egyptians. I will free you from being slaves to them, or I will rescue you. I will redeem you from an outstretched arm, with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God. Then you will know that I am the Lord, your God, who brought you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians, and I will bring you to the land I swore with uplifted hand to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to you as a possession. I am the Lord." And if you look at the context here, he's talking to Moses, and Moses is discouraged because Pharaoh has even gotten tougher with the people. And God's saying to him, you know what? I remember my covenant. I remember what I said to the people, that I will rescue them, and I will make a great people out of you, Abraham, and Isaac, and Jacob. And he did fulfill that. And he said, you know what? I'm gonna do that right now. Even though you think Pharaoh's not going to let him go, I will change Pharaoh's heart. What we do every year in our family group is we have a Seder Passover meal. So we did it in church a couple of years ago here as the entire congregation, and I know I've shared about it a couple of times. There were so many insights, so many things that moved me from the last time that we did this, that I just want to share something else that we learned, and that's about these 4 cups here. One of the things... Oh, very good. We've already zoomed in here. Exodus chapter 12 reveals what God wanted us to do. Exodus chapter 12, God says, you know what? You're going to eat this meal every year. And it's going to remind you of the price that was paid. You know what redeem means? If you take a look at redeem, I looked it up. It says to recover ownership of something or someone by paying a specified sum. So the sum that was paid, the price that was paid was the sacrifice. So as Jesus is reading, I will rescue you, I will redeem you, he's thinking about the price that was paid for them. He's thinking about the price he's going to be paying. They gathered together, according to Exodus 12, and they slaughtered the lamb. And they put it across the door frame to remind, or to notify the angel of God. Save these people, free these people, rescue these people. And this became an annual remembrance. Yet Jesus took it and he transformed it completely. He said, you know what, that was awesome for the Jewish people, but we're going to take it one step further. When we do this every year, you're going to remember me. When we take this, and when you're thinking about the incredible miracle, the miracle of the Jewish people, we're going to blow the miracle away. I am now what you're going to think of. My blood is the juice. My blood is the cup that we're going to take part of. The 4 promises of Exodus were this. Number 1, I will bring you out. And they would take the cup and they would drink. And they would remember, I will bring you out. I'm going to take you out of that lifestyle that you're in. And we tried to imagine as a group, what did that feel like? What were they going through? And about every 10 minutes, we would stop and we would talk about one more promise in our Seder Passover meal that we took. And the second one, I will rescue you. You know what that means? It means I need rescuing. It's sweet. It tastes good to be rescued. I will redeem you was the third promise. I'm going to redeem you. I'm going to pay a price. And you can just imagine what Jesus was thinking when they drank that third cup. They didn't quite get it yet, but Jesus got it. He would be the price. And I think for Jesus it wasn't quite so sweet to drink that third cup. I will take you out was the fourth one. And as we were going through this, Dave Bruce commented, he said, you know what? I feel like I'm getting in touch here. And that's good when Dave gets in touch. And Dave said, you know, I feel like God is telling me that He's let me out of my life. I feel like God has rescued me from my life of sin. And that's a good feeling. I feel like God has allowed Jesus to be crucified to rescue me. And I feel like God is bringing me close to Him. That fourth promise. I will bring you to me. That's the one that moves me the most. I'm going to bring you to me, just like I promised. And we will be with Him in heaven. So the question I have, is this what Jesus was thinking at the Last Supper? You know, I'm doing some conjecturing here. I don't know exactly what Jesus was thinking. I do know there was multiple cups. I know there was promises. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is what's going through Jesus' mind. And Jesus reinterpreted these four promises. They weren't just for the people to think about the Exodus years ago and to be reminded of how great God was back then. These are no longer promises of the Old Covenant. These are promises of the New Covenant. These are promises that you can relate to every day. Not just back then, that you're reminded that those people back then were loved. Those people. Now this is about me all of a sudden. These are the promises for me. And Cece took it a step further. And Cece said, you know, this is really hitting me. Maybe Jesus was encouraged by these promises. Maybe these promises weren't just for the training of the 12. Maybe they weren't just to remind the 12. Maybe they were for Jesus Himself. Was Jesus turning these promises into promises for the 12? Saying, you know what, I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to free you. I'm going to redeem you. I think He was. And I also think Jesus felt each of these promises. Because you got to remember, He knows what's going to be happening here in the next few minutes. And I think He was preparing His own heart. As He would face the most difficult challenge of His life. He knew He would face a decision in the garden, and He knew it wouldn't be an easy decision. See, the fifth cup, I believe, was not the cup of Elijah in Jesus' mind. It was the cup of doing God's will. Remember in the garden where He says, take this cup from me, but not my will be done, but yours be done? Why did He say cup? Maybe that was the common expression. But He'd been drinking these cups of God's promises to Him. I think this was the cup that He was giving back to God. And you know, when you make a decision and you say, you know, I'm going to repent one more time, that's your fifth cup. That I'm going to do your will, not my own will. So Jesus drank the four cups, and when He did, I think He was reminded that God would lead Him through this terrible ordeal, that God would rescue Him from this terrible ordeal, that God would redeem Him, and that God would bring Him home. You see, I think it was the first four cups that gave Jesus the strength to drink the fifth cup. You know, in the garden when He is saying, Father, take this cup from me, Not my will, but yours be done. I think he was encouraged by those 4 cups. I think he was encouraged to know that God was with him, that God was giving him strength, that God was leading him, that God's promises never fail, that God's covenant never fails. How is it with you and me? You see, I want to try to be tough. I don't know how it is for women, but men try to be tough. You need to repent. I'm just going to get tough and make that decision and repent. I need to make the decision. Make the decision, bro. You got to make the decision now, bro. All right, I got to make the decision. But how much more encouraging is it to make that decision when you are focused not on your own self, but when you're focused on the other cups, so to speak, of God's promises for you? That helps me make it through the decisions. Because just being tough, I don't have it in me. None of us do. That's called the flesh.